What's up, guys? It's Cheney, and today I'm going to be making sweet potato biscuits, and I'm taking you guys with me along the way. So let's go. So here are the ingredients. I have baking powder, all-purpose flour, sugar, baking soda, and of course the sweet potatoes. I did have to get microwavable sweet potatoes because all the sweet potatoes were out at the store due to Thanksgiving. But of course this will help speed up the process so you don't have to worry about boiling the potatoes and waiting for that extra cooking time. So here I'm preheating the oven to 400 degrees and I'm going to let that warm up while I get everything prepped. I'm going to go ahead and line a baking sheet with parchment paper for the biscuits. And then I'm going to go ahead and pop the sweet potatoes into the microwave. I'll probably have them in here for about 16 minutes just to make sure they're both cooked thoroughly and that once they're done, they're soft enough for me to mash to go into the dough making process. To start the process for making the dough, you do need buttermilk as well as butter. For the butter, you're going to use 6 tablespoons, and I just measured it out using the wrapping paper. And then from there, you're going to want to melt the butter, which you can, of course, do in the microwave. And then I'm going to go ahead and pour out 1 cup of buttermilk and just have that waiting for when everything is ready to be mixed. Okay, y'all, so when the potatoes come out of the microwave, they are going to be extremely hot. So make sure you aren't using your hands. You can see from me, I'm wrapping it, the steam is coming off of them. But just doing the microwave version, they're extremely soft. Once I get this plastic off, you'll see me cut right through the center of it, and it just goes right through. It's so easy for me to use a spoon to scoop the potatoes out of the skin because they're just so soft from using the microwave, and it's making it so much easier for me to mash them. But I'm just making sure there aren't any extra lumps in there, so just going around doing that. Then I'm pouring in the melted butter as well as the buttermilk, and I'm going to use a whisk to whisk that around and just make sure everything is mixed up pretty well before I add the rest of the ingredients. It actually ended up being pretty thick. I know you can see the liquid in there, but the more I was whisking it, the thicker it got, which is good to get ready for the dough. I'm mixing in 3 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 5 teaspoons of baking powder, and then just 2 tablespoons of sugar. And then once again, I'm using the whisk to mix it all together. I really did need a larger bowl because it was extremely hard doing it in such a small bowl, but it ended up working out. But this is just to get the dough, to get it doughy so that you can create the dough that you want. I'm using parchment paper and I put flour on top of it so I could pour the sweet potato out of the bowl. The purpose of the flour is to make sure the sweet potato doesn't stick, and it's supposed to help with that stickiness and that doughiness. So of course you want to get all the excess sweet potato out of the bowl so you're not wasting. And then from there, I'm putting some more flour on there again to try to make it so it's not sticking because it is still pretty warm. So I'm really supposed to be manipulating the sweet potato at this point to create the dough, but I actually forgot that step. I'm out here winging it, so I had to actually go back once I started this rolling process, and as you can see, the sweet potato is just sticking to it, so I was like, all right, this isn't working. So I'm going to go back to the recipe. Let me throw out a disclaimer and let you guys know I did wash my hands multiple times throughout this process, and this is just me washing them again because I did get some of the sweet potato on them. All right, so I changed locations and I got one of my cutting boards because I figured I probably need a better surface to roll the dough out on. Once again, I am putting the flour down to make sure it's not as sticky as it was on the parchment paper. And then I'm gonna transfer it from the parchment paper to the cutting board just to start this process all over again. I'm adding more flour once again because after all the mishaps, I concluded that I clearly wasn't using enough flour. And, just thinking about when I'm in pizza shops and other places, wherever they're doing pastries, you always see a ton of flour. So I just started pouring more flour into the sweet potato and started manipulating it more and more, just trying to make it doughy to the point where it's not going to stick to the roller once I start rolling it out. So here you just see me working it over and over, trying to get the excess sweet potato off of the cutting board so I'm not wasting, and I'm just continuing to add more and more flour. Once I felt like the dough was at the consistency that I needed, I started rolling it out, and throughout the rolls, I was continuing to again add flour, just because that flour really, really helps with not having the stickiness and not having it stick to your roller, and just making it easier for you once you do start cutting out the biscuit circles. This is my first time making biscuits from scratch, so I did not have a cutter, a cookie cutter, or anything. So here I am using a glass to cut my biscuit circles out. But you work with whatever you have, and clearly it's working out fine. So I noticed when I was putting the circles in, it was still kind of sticking to the cup. So I thought maybe if I put flour on the cup, that would be more helpful to make clear cut circles for the biscuit shapes. And I started doing that. As you can see, the shapes are ideal for what you want in a biscuit. Let me just say, flour is going to be your best friend during this whole process. Clearly, throughout the whole process, I'm using flour constantly, and I put it on my hands so that way once I start lifting the biscuits up, the sweet potato won't stick to my hand. And even when I tried the first one, you see it's terrible. It's not coming out right at all. So I decided to check the other ones out to see if I could probably lift some of the other ones better, if maybe they had more powder on them and it wouldn't be as difficult. And as you can see, the next one did come out pretty well. I think it's a pretty good shape. It's clearly covered with the powder, but I think maybe I rolled the dough out too thin, and that could have been part of the issue as well. So once the other one started messing up, I was like, all right, maybe I just need to go back and roll it out again. All right, added more flour and I'm rolling. And as you can see, to me, the dough looks thicker and you can clearly see the flour throughout the dough. So I think that definitely helped. So adding more flour, and then I'm cutting the circle shapes again. And you can tell the biscuits are gonna look thicker this time around. So here are the finished products, and I think they look great for the first go round. I'm gonna place them in the oven on the middle rack. I'm not covering them up with anything, and I'm gonna set the timer for 15 minutes. Let's pull them out of the oven and see how they're looking. They are pretty light. I thought they would get more golden brown, the way your biscuits would typically look. But you can also see the flour on top of them still. I'm going to throw some butter on there just to get some of that flour gone. And of course, who doesn't want butter on top of their biscuits? Y'all, this looks like your typical Pillsbury biscuit out the can. This wasn't a part of the recipe, but I did decide to throw some cinnamon on top of the biscuits as well as some honey because I felt like it may be drier than your typical biscuits because it is from scratch. And here they are. I'm really happy with how they came out considering I was just out here trying a new recipe. Mmm.